Hello everyone, and thank you so very much for tuning in. And thank you so much Nadiya Shah for giving me this once in a lifetime opportunity to be on your channel and share my thoughts about this upcoming lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse in Scorpio, taking place either on the 15th or 16th of May, depending on which side of the planet you're on. Now, this is one of the most heavily karmic energies, and this is why I would like to use this chance, this opportunity that Nadiya is giving me to share a couple of thoughts about the astrological distinctiveness of my culture, especially the astrological culture of the Balkans, because this eclipse is a little bit special here, not necessarily because it's a total lunar eclipse, that makes it a very, very big thing astrologically speaking, and being in the sign of Scorpio, so that is one of the most heavily concentrated spiritual energies. You might say maybe Pisces, yet Pisces is very, very ethereal. Pisces is very not dense. It is very, very light. Scorpio, on the other hand, is heavily concentrated. That is why it is also seen sometimes as a toxin, even in a physical sense. Now, Scorpio rules everything that has to do with the occult, everything that has to do with our psyche, everything that has to do with our unconscious. So there is a lot under the surface. This alone should be plenty of reason why this eclipse is definitely going to be a very, very big thing, not only in the world out there, but also in our individual lives as well, because everyone has this 25 degrees of Scorpio in their chart somewhere. That is one area of life. And if it so happens to be that it is also conversing with one of your personal planets, well, it is that much more important. So, where I'm going with this, in my culture, there is a specific way of looking at Neptune. Astrologers in my culture look at Neptune more as a divine source in its most pure expression. Yes, it is also everything else, the illusion, also the psyche, that which our minds sometimes, of course, in correlation with our emotional world, basically the creative energy within us makes us think, makes us see, makes us believe, makes us feel. So of course it's highly illusionary, but Neptune, just like the sign which it rules, Pisces, is eternally and almost absolutely ethereal. It is a total enigma. So in my culture, and here in the Balkans, we like to think about Neptune as the divine source itself, as a great divine eye, symbolically speaking, of course, in the sky staring at us, but it's a mirror, so when you stare back, it always reflects that which you truly are, or that which you're hell-bent on seeing. That is where the illusion, the shadowy expression of Neptune comes into play. And you might ask me, what does Neptune have to do with this eclipse? Well, a lot. On one hand, at the time of the eclipse, Neptune converses directly both with the sun and moon, the eclipse being a full moon, the sun being in the sign of Taurus and the moon in the sign opposite sign of Scorpio, and Neptune sextiles the sun and trines the moon. And Neptune at the time of the eclipse is not alone in the sky, it has a meeting with Mars. Now this is very special in the Balkans, because if Neptune is the divine source, so naturally it drowns Mars. Mars might feel a little bit frustrated, it might feel a little bit uncomfortable, psychologically speaking. That is how we might be feeling it, but that is why, the divine tide, karma, fate, or whatever is going to be revealed at that time, full moon, revelatory, is going to, of course, wash us over like a tide. But when Mars touches any other planet, it's the activator. So we have an enraged Neptune. Neptune might drown it, but Mars burns in the heart of the ocean, visualize it as a burning meteorite, descending into the deep, deep ocean. Of course, ultimately the ocean wins. It will cause just a huge shockwave, yet it will also boil the water, the steam. That is what happens when Mars meets Neptune. It boils the divine source up. So in my culture, this means one thing: the divine will. In the Christian Orthodox culture, the will of God being executed. The sign of Pisces, especially the third decan of Pisces, the scorpionic energy. Again, it points to Scorpio, the transformational, heavy, deep energy, and that our lives, including perhaps spiritually, emotionally, will never ever be the same again, because this eclipse is the kind of transformational which there is no way back. This is permanent change. Maybe for some people permanent loss, but that loss can be a debt, a problem, a burden. So, let's not polarize it. That is the best way of looking at it. Exactly as Nadiya herself said, I know this from Nadiya, sometimes look at your life and look at things from heaven's perspective. Look at yourself from heaven's eyes. And only then can we see what the universe, what the divine source, Neptune, along with Mars, trining the moon in Scorpio, a very strong and transformational, spiritual, mystical, alchemical even water trine. Well, what this wants to do is I don't know if you've seen the documentary where there's gold diggers or gold seekers, finders, where they dig up river banks and wash out the gold, and that's like a business. That is exactly what the universe, through karma, through fated events, especially now, Mars, the activator, Neptune and Pisces, very, very fated. Scorpio also very fated itself. Mars being the ancient ruling planet of Scorpio, this is all about fate. So we are dug up at this eclipse. Everything's in the mud. Then comes the water, washing it out. But it turns it, on first hand, it turns it into a true blood, filthy, muddy excrement. It's not clear water, it is murky. But slowly and surely, we will see that the gold is starting to glitter from the mud. The water trine, Pisces in this way, alchemically helping the sign of Scorpio, because it's from the scorpionic decan of Pisces. It's adding clear water, it is dissolving, it is washing the filth away, and the gold will shine. So this is a very, very strong alchemical process when it is the divine itself who wishes to wash out the filth, so all of us can gaze upon the gold, the glitter, the grand prize. Another example that Nadiya uses so very often in her work, the alchemical journey. Always, it is always the journey that counts, but very, very rarely we have the chance to also rejoice at the end of the journey, at the grand prize, the alchemical gold. So, and this, at least here in the Balkans, in our astrological dialect, our slang, we consider that this is when the divine itself purifies everything. This is a very, very strong, almost absolute purificational energy. And that also means that feelings are going to be very, very heavy, because as I said at the beginning, all of us have this in our charts, in one area of life, in our soul configuration, one way or another, and that will be brought to the surface. And of course, on the world stage, this is a very big deal as well, because Scorpio is money, Scorpio is also fuel, Scorpio is what happens with money, debt, banks, finances, management of the secret, skeletons in the closet, political corruption, crimes, criminality, who did what truly, because this is a highly revelatory and also revolutionary energy. The sun illuminates all of this from the sign of Taurus, the true simplicity, nature. So this will reveal something on the world stage, and Jupiter guarantees this, because at this time Jupiter is at 0 degrees, almost 1 degree of the sign of Aries, the world axis. That is the world stage. And Jupiter in the sign of Aries, well, good fortune and blessings, and the great benefic aspect of Jupiter is bestowed upon us by taking action, Aries. So there will be also action. There will be a very, very strong emotional response to whatever is going to be revealed on the world stage at that time, regardless of what that is, because Scorpio can be a lot of things, but that is just like the karmic sewage that will be washed away to highlight the gold, to highlight the true value. And sometimes if we look, if we look at the Sabian symbol of this 25 degrees of the sign of Scorpio, the Sabian symbol depicts an Indian encampment being built after they enter into a new territory, into a new land. So they're preparing to adapt to a totally new life. And that is so very fitting for all of us. The COVID situation. In my geographical location, there is a war. So, that requires a lot of adaptation in so very many ways, even just psychologically. But all of us have to leave the past behind. And this eclipse kind of, resets that. It eclipses the past totally, because this will show us that which we once considered to be our normality is no longer available. That doesn't exist anymore. This is the final ending. This is one side of the eclipse that I strongly believe that all of us are gonna feel, experience in one way or another, that it is the end of something. There is no way back, no going back. That old normality is now just a memory and nothing else. We cannot have it back. All of us are different people, living different lives, different dreams, different aspirations. The Great Conjunction in 2020, that changed us a lot. And this is also an eclipse which perhaps highlights this the most, because it is not just Mars, the ancient ruling planet, which converses with the eclipse. It is also Pluto, the modern ruling planet, very, very powerful, because it just went retrograde, but it is still very slow. So it has a lot of power, it has a lot of momentum, and the shadowy aspect is highlighted because it is almost as an erratic degree of Capricorn, and it also converses with the eclipse because it holds a trine with the sun in Taurus and the sextile the moon in its home sign of Scorpio. So it is a very powerful transformational energy when both Mars and Pluto, the two kings of Scorpio, are present very, very strongly at the same time. This means that this will make us face one way or another the truth, Scorpio and Pluto, the Plutonic truth, that we and our lives and our normality, even our beliefs, even our mindset, everything is so very different right now. So like it or not, we need to abandon the past, even if abandoning the past means forgiveness, no longer allowing ourselves to be the victim, no longer allowing ourselves to live in a certain illusionary comfort. This is where this eclipse shocks us to the truth that all of us at this moment need to follow our soul's calling, because the world that we live in is no longer the same, that the one which birthed us our comforts. So our daydreams are gone and done with for all of us. This is where we have to embrace our true calling. If we are dreamers, that's absolutely fine, but it's time to begin the new dream. It is time to dream in a different way, in a way that we have never dreamt before. And this is almost demanded by Uranus being in Taurus grinding it down, revolutionizing everything that we found traditional. And this is where Scorpio comes into play. Our value systems, in any way, shape, and form, even psychologically, in anything that we basically touch, are already transforming, changing. That which used to be something infinitely treasured, valued just 2-3 years ago, well, today is very, very different in any sense. Maybe in a more positive or negative sense, depending on what we look at. But even, cash-based societies, how different they are now than they were a couple of years ago. Cash is different, usage of cash is different, cryptocurrencies, and so many other revolutionary values just birthing out of nowhere. That is Uranus in the sign of Taurus. But this is where the Scorpio eclipse has to end something. All of us, maybe as a species collectively, are going to be paying a certain kind of karmic debt, maybe. But we close something, and that means we have so much space for new, for adapting, for a new land, for a new adventure. And Jupiter in the sign of Aries almost blesses this. It almost asks us to focus on the new, to focus on that which we can accomplish, and just to abandon everything else, to give it to this eclipse, to surrender it to the great void, and allow it to enter into nothingness. Our pain, our wound, our trauma, that great conflict, even that ancestral family karma, this eclipse is destructive in the best ways possible. It is a very rare celestial opportunity that all of us are being gifted, especially for closures, for regeneration and healing. Yes, this is a permanent change, but that can also be for a lot of people a phoenix moment, when something just sticks and triggers within them, and they find themselves suddenly, maybe out of no rational explanation and reason, stronger than the trauma, stronger than the blockage, stronger, better than the low self-worth, stronger than the toxic partner. This eclipse can change lives and transform in the best sense possible. And the sextile in the sky from the sign of Pisces, Mars, does require a lot of inner work. It does require a lot of openness to our most authentic selves, that which stems from our souls, Pisces and Neptune together. And that sextile and trine, respectively, from Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn's karmic lesson is always responsibility, diligence, and patience. Have we worked for something which life, fate, and the universe just refuse to give us? Our rightful reward, our harvest. The universe might have made us wait for something. Maybe at this eclipse we finally get it. And the work and the journey and the hardship is over. And what begins is us finding ourselves being in the robes and the shoes of masters, having to do something new with our gained knowledge, power, resource, money, whatever that Pluto gifts to us. And basically, this is my astrological vision of this eclipse. And as a last guidance from an astrological perspective, I would like to come with Nadiya Shah's very own advice, where she always says that when you feel very, very triggered or blocked or in a very intense and tight situation, this eclipse, the moon in Scorpio, can pull a lot of intensity to the surface, especially Scorpio instincts, impulses. Mars, god of war. Nadiya always says, apply the HALT principle. So if you are hungry, angry, lonely and tired, just take time out, address these issues, these basic needs, Taurus, the energy of Taurus, where it is not just the sun being there. This is an eclipse, so the North Node. We have to learn from nature and simplicity, address our basic needs, because everything is better. Uranus rules the central nervous system, when we're hungry, we think differently. The hormones and everything in our body are more harmonious. So we must make sure that at least we attempt to have our basic needs met and stay from a place of maximum calm and react, or whatever this eclipse will produce in our lives, judge it, do it, react it, cry it out, or whatever, from a place of greater calm, because that always helps. So halt in everything whenever the moment is way too tensioned. And when you're not hungry, when you have someone with you, you're not lonely, when even if you're tired, you're perfectly aware of it, well, that changes the whole scenery. From a victim, you can just be a survivor, a warrior, someone who is standing your ground. That physical needs being met can change anything. So just try this, and it does work a lot. And as a final guidance, so to speak, well, I am a channeler, so an eclipse from a alchemical and mystical perspective, that is when things are truly in the dark. The moon, the soul, the eye of the soul basically is eclipsed. It is in the dark. We are in a period of darkness because the effect of the eclipse is also at least 1 week before. So we are in a certain kind of darkness and in a bit of mist, that Neptune sextile. So this is a perfect moment for channeling and divine guidance, because the veil between the worlds is especially thin, but it is not as much recommended for classing divination, as in wanting to find out what the future holds, anticipating this and that, because we are supposed to be fixated in the present, anchored in the present, to let go of the past and then invite the future, but without knowing. That's how it's a new adventure. But for channeling, to receive advice, it is a really, really good period. So I would like to channel some divine guidance for you through tarot. And this is the deck that I am going to be using. So basically what I would like to do is ask what Nadiya calls greater love and greater wisdom to give us a couple of thoughts or maybe philosophies to consider to help us cope, process, or take things more easily at the time of this lunar eclipse. And this can be true collectively or individually. This is just like good advice coming from the spirit. So let us, we already have a card. So we had the Tower reversed. Now the Tower, its astrological correspondent is actually Mars. And in reverse position, well, it's not really bad news, because the Tower in reverse position can represent that a tower falls out there in the world. It can represent that we're witness to a tower falling. But for us personally, it is actually the light at the end of the tunnel, the hope that matters more. Because whatever is falling, it is also our obstacles, our limitations, something that was our prison ultimately. Even if we look at this socially, this is where all of us reevaluate the time that we give to others from our lives. For example, how much money we are willing to accept in order to work this and that. This period of profound transformation, 2020, Saturn and Pluto conjunction, it transformed our value system to the core. And what is happening is just the external reflection of that. But this is also as advice encouraging us not to fear. Because if something is being demolished on the world stage, the opposite is happening in our lives. We are building that which needs to take the place already internally, because that is how creation works. So the universe, through our fantasies, through our dreams, through our sacred journeys that we're living in the eternal now, it is preparing us to replace the Tower, because the tarot card that comes after the Tower is the star, Aquarius in tarot. Nadiya Shah herself is in Aquarius. And the ruling planet of Aquarius is Uranus, the planet of astrology. The Wheel of Fortune reversed. Luck is going to change. Something comes to an end. A cycle truly comes to an end. But because Wheel of Fortune, Jupiter is reversed, changing signs literally. Mars is in Pisces. So of course there is divine power at play here. But Jupiter also changing signs. And Jupiter changing signs does trigger a moment of strong karmic completion, but also the beginner's luck, especially in Aries, the first breath. Whatever we begin anew, especially when that which we begin anew embodies the energy of Aries, it has that spontaneity to it. It wants to be born from within us. That will definitely benefit from this Jupiter. But this is also on what might be happening on the world stage out there. At first glance might not be pretty. It might seem as a moment of misfortune, but to reveal something, to deliver a message. And Six of Cups reversed. Well, you know, every generation lived something big. Every single generation lived something that it's like a memorable period of the whole generation, not necessarily the individual. Well, what this is none of us and not our ancestors, no one lived what we are going to be living in this year 2022. We have never ever experienced anything like this. And as a surprise factor, as a shock factor, we are not ready. Because the icing on the cake is what happens after the eclipse. Even individually for us speaking. And this can also represent, you know, those traumas which you thought that are just clawed into your psyche and are not going anywhere. You will see that the universe does find a way to get rid of any filth, even that which just, you know, aggressively, stubbornly doesn't want to leave you. Something will, the Ten of Wands, even that which you thought would never ever end. For you personally, maybe it is this eclipse that is going to end that. So this is something bad, the bad luck, things not working out, low self-worth. For a lot of people, it is this eclipse that's going to change all of that. Not as a miracle, nothing happens maybe physically speaking, but just you wake up the next day. Of course, take it with a pinch of salt what I'm saying. And life feels different. People start to smile, you know, at you when you walk the street. That job just falls into your lap. Your luck has changed already. This is what the universe is saying. Not to judge things and our own worth, what is happening collectively on the world stage, because this is where our lives, our stories are what we make of it. And that is how we beautify the collective as well. So basically, this is the divine guidance to embody the beauty of your own journey, even if it's not a very bright one. Because this will trigger a lot of depression and mental health issues for a lot of people out there. But even that has sacredness to it. And the sacredness, that gold which I have been speaking about, is gonna shine in a way in which fake gold and fake light cannot shine. Your true worth is gonna be illuminated. Now, I would also like to give Taurus a chance to say a word of advice. So I'm using this oracle deck, which is kind of very Taurian. Gaia, you know, Taurus, nature, as one last final advice, because the sun is illuminating all of this from the sign of Taurus. Oh, we have 3. So, explorer of water, as I said, ride the wave of emotion, but halt. when you're not hungry, when you are full of energy, or when you tried your very, very hardest to fulfill all your needs and you ride the wave from that perspective, everything is gonna go more smoothly. You will keep your balance, you will have allies. It will feel like surfing rather than drowning. The Ace of Fire. Well, this guarantees that out of the chaos that is imminently gonna be stirred up on the world stage, something new is gonna be born, and fire. Jupiter in Aries. The salamander moment, the moment of rebirth, because Aries is birth, the first breath, the first sign. And Pisces is, especially the 29th degree, which Jupiter left, is kind of death, to be honest with you. But the kind of death that gives way to new life. Scorpio is all about transformation, the eternal cycle. So this is where a lot of fresh and new for a lot of us are gonna begin. This eclipse might make room for the new in our lives. And the Elder of Air. This tells us that if we, Mercury is going to be at 3 degrees of the sign of Gemini retrograde. It's a daytime sign. If we take Mercury as example, just look at this image. Just let the inner music guide us, detached. Look at things as a game, as a piece of tactical chess that the universe plays. The universe is also an artist, a scientist. The universe is everything. Let it do whatever it needs to do. Look at the innocent, look at the light-hearted, look at the playful and the educative side of it. That is also wisdom. Elders are wise, elders are so much, but they're also light-hearted, because that is what keeps them alive. So thank you so very much, everyone, for listening. I wish everyone a magical and blessed eclipse, and thank you so much, Nadiya, for giving me this opportunity. I just hope that this eclipse truly highlights the true gold within your heart, within your soul, and that you can give thanks to all the times you have chosen to be strong and to survive everything that life threw at you. Thank you again. Until next time. Bye for now.